not charted enough. I live in New York and would love to get together anytime. Just let me know. There's so much to say, but none of that is for today. Today is a congratulations, a celebration, and I'm sorry for any upset I might have caused in an otherwise beautiful moment. Sending you the best. Blake. 287. On August 12, 2024, a female cast member texted Miss Lively concerned about online commentary and asked what could be done to stop all the negative comments. 288. On August 13, 2024, another female cast member sent Miss Lively an article reporting that, quote, Justin Baldoni has hired veteran PR crisis manager Melissa Nathan amid the release of It Ends With Us. Miss Lively's response was, quote, yeah, the truth always comes out, as painful as it is to wait. 289. On August 14, 2024, the same cast member texted Miss Lively to ask about her well-being and to express her concern and respect for Miss Lively. Later, that cast member expressed regret at what Miss Lively was going through. 290. On August 15, 2024, another female cast member wrote to Miss Lively about the online bullying that cast member was also receiving as a result of being associated with Miss Lively and asking Miss Lively who to ask for help to have it stop because it was becoming difficult to cope with the onslaught. The next day, Miss Lively commented in a text message to the cast member that, quote, it's bullshit about all of us. We know who we are. It's why it hurts so much, because we feel we're not evil sociopaths. To which the cast member responded in agreement. 292, and yes, I skipped 291 because it's just the same exact paragraph I just read in 290. So now 292. On August 18th, 2024, Miss Lively observed that the online hatred and targeted against her was, quote, incessant and getting worse. She continued, quote, everyone's sort of in shock and no one wants to be the first to hit it head on, so it just gets worse. Miss Lively noted that, at this point, she was staying off of social media given how ugly it had become. 293. As this onslaught continued, Miss Lively was deeply disappointed that neither Wayfarer nor Sony had stepped in to correct the record. On September 4th, 2024, she received a text from a Sony executive, quote, checking in on her and asking how she was doing. Miss Lively responded, quote, I'm not in a good place. This has been deeply painful and I feel so hung out to dry. From production to this PR crisis, no one stepped forward. I wish so much I was okay, but I'm really not. That executive said, quote, I know, it's been hard and horrendously unfair, and I hope soon you can better take in the incredible film you made that audiences love around the world. It's so rare this happens, and you did that. You also will have 330 million worth of eyeballs watching a film about domestic violence. That is so important and affected so many lives for the better. That's because of you. F. The defendants and their agents continue to perpetrate their retaliation campaign against Miss Lively. 294. Miss Lively exhausted jurisdictional prerequisites to filing this lawsuit by timely filing a complaint regarding the behaviors identified herein with the California Civil Rights Department on December 20th, 2024, and thereafter sent a cease and desist letter to the Wayfarer parties. By the next morning, rather than replying to Miss Lively's attorneys, the defendant's attorney, Brian Freeman, made defamatory on-the-record statements about Miss Lively to the media, and numerous articles reporting on Mr. Freeman's statements referenced specific details in Miss Lively's CRD complaint. 295. In response to the CRD complaint, Mr. Baldoni's team admitted to reveling in shaping stories about Miss Lively. On December 22, 2024, after Miss Lively's CRD complaint was leaked to the press, Miss Abel posted to a PR and marketing group on Meta to, quote, defend herself among her peers. Stunningly, even while attempting to deny Miss Lively's allegations, Miss Abel conceded the retaliatory nature and intent of the, quote, campaign, stating that Wayfarer, Mr. Baldoni, and the larger team had, quote, prepared for, that is, conspired to perpetrate, a smear campaign, including negative press and social combat plan, and had further been prepared to take, quote, over-the-top steps to, quote, protect Mr. Baldoni. Citation 45. 296. Further, since receiving such notice of the CRD complaint on information and belief, Wayfarer, Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, and their associates ramped up their retaliation campaign against Miss Lively, continuing their efforts to, quote, bury and, quote, destroy her to this date, deploying the same, quote, flood the zone tactics to, quote, overwhelm the process and, quote, confuse people. Defendants and their agents acting at their direction have pursued a highly public media blitz and litigation strategy to attempt to discredit Miss Lively and Mr. Reynolds, along with Miss Lively's longtime publicist, Disney, the New York Times, and others. 297. A relentless media influence and, quote, digital manipulation strategy remains at the heart of defendants' campaign. As before, defendants have directly engaged with media platforms to overwhelm and confuse the public's understanding of Ms. Lively's allegations and to drive negative sentiment against Ms. Lively and anyone who supports her or speaks out against Mr. Baldoni. Defendants' strategy is to convince the public that it is Ms. Lively rather than Mr. Baldoni, i.e. the co-founder, co-producer, and director of the film backed by a millionaire who has pledged to spend $100 million on his behalf, who is the bully perpetrating a media smear campaign. 298. Much of this phase of the campaign has taken place in the form of statements by defendant's lawyer, Mr. Friedman, who regularly issues inflammatory content to media outlets, appearing on any show that will have him, including those hosted by his own clients, and saying anything, whether true or false, that will harm Miss Lively's credibility and intimidate others from speaking up on her behalf. Those statements, which have been circulated and viewed millions of times, constitute defamation as well as continued retaliation against Ms. Lively for engaging in the protected activity of speaking up and bringing legal claims against Mr. Baldoni. 299. Mr. Friedman's statements to the press outside of court proceedings include, inter alia, A, quote, Blake and her legal team have just one heinous pivot left, and that is to double down on the revoltingly false sexual allegations against Mr. Baldoni. We will not only continue to defend our clients against Blake's power, privilege, and all-out lies, but we will now fight even harder for the voiceless in the DV community who are unfairly suffering while she continues to push her own self-serving and selfish vendetta in the media. Citation 46. B, quote, It is shameful that Miss Lively and her representatives would make such serious and categorically false accusations against Mr. Baldoni, Wayfarer Studios, and its representatives, as yet another desperate attempt to fix her negative reputation. Miss Lively's claims are completely false, outrageous, and intentionally salacious, with an intent to publicly hurt and rehash a narrative in the media. Citation 47. C. TAG PR operated as any other crisis management firm would when hired by a client experiencing threats by two extremely powerful people with unlimited resources. Citation 48. D. Quote, In this vicious smear campaign fully orchestrated by Blake Lively and her team, the New York Times cowered to the wants and whims of two powerful, untouchable Hollywood elites. In doing so, they predetermined the outcome of their story and aided and abetted their own devastating PR smear campaign. Citation 49. E. Ms. Lively acted with the, quote, sole intent to ruin the lives of innocent individuals and then went the extra mile to place blame on a fictitious smear campaign. Citation 50. F. Ms. Lively's sexual harassment and retaliation complaint has, quote, devastated the entirety of the domestic violence community. Citation 51. G. Quote, Ms. Lively used these allegations of sexual harassment, and she used these allegations of bullying to try to leverage her position so that she could be the de facto director in this case. Citation 52. H. Quote, Ms. Lively and her team attempted to bulldoze reputations and livelihoods for heinously selfish reasons. Citation 53. 300. On information and belief, defendants approved and authorized Mr. Friedman to publish the above quoted statements as their agent and Mr. Friedman would not have published the statements but for their approval and authorization. Mr. Friedman remains the lead attorney for all defendants in this action, and no defendant has issued any retraction or expressed disapproval of any of Mr. Friedman's public statements. 301. The statements above were published with actual malice because defendants know that the core narrative advanced by Mr. Friedman, that Ms. Lively fabricated made-up sexual harassment claims to seize control of the film, is false. As conveyed in a text exchange on August 30th, 2024, Mr. Baldoni and Ms. Nathan both have never doubted the sincerity of Ms. Lively's beliefs regarding what happened on set. In their own damning words, quote, "I just know her personality, and this is the kind of person that genuinely believes she's right and that all of this is unjust." Ms. Nathan responded, quote, "She fully does. I know it." 302. These overtly retaliatory, misleading, and in many cases false statements regarding Ms. Lively have been accompanied by defendants continuing pervasive conduct and conferring with, quote, "friendly" media sources to ferret their narrative into the public. 303. Additionally, as before, defendants have continued to pursue their, quote, "untraceable" digital social media manipulation campaign designed to impact social media algorithms against Ms. Lively. On information and belief, these efforts have continued and accelerated since Ms. Lively's administrative complaint and subsequent federal lawsuit were filed. 304. Defendants have further pursued their public strategy through frivolous litigation designed to create press attention, intimidate others from coming forward, and pressure Ms. Lively to give up her claims. Defendants' counsel threatened to file numerous lawsuits to sue Ms. Lively and others, quote, "into oblivion," with the intent and effect of intimidating others with information about Wayfarer from speaking up. 305. Defendants have since proceeded to file multiple lawsuits in 3 jurisdictions with outsized damages assertions in each, including $400 million in the affirmative suit by Mr. Baldoni and Wayfarer in the Southern District of New York, $250 million against the New York Times, and $7 million by Mr. Wallace and his company in Texas. These lawsuits consist of A. Wayfarer Studios LLC et al., v. Lively et al., U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York, case number 1:25CV00449LJL. B. Wayfarer Studios LLC et al., v. The New York Times Company, Superior Court of California, County of Los Angeles, case number 24STCV34662. Which defendants later dismissed in light of their suit against the New York Times in the consolidated case, in light of their suit against the New York Times in the consolidated case, and C. Jed Wallace et al., v. Lively, United States District Court for the Western District of Texas, case number 25163-DAE. In keeping with the, quote, "reverse victim offender" approach, defendants' suits echo many of the claims made by Ms. Lively against them, but with allegations fixating heavily on Ms. Lively's supposed motive for her allegations, wresting creative control of the film from Mr. Baldoni. 306. Defendants' course of conduct in their numerous retaliatory lawsuits to date has been rife with gamesmanship, retaliation, and harassment, including in matters as seemingly inconsequential as service. For instance, when Ms. Lively filed her complaint, her counsel reached out to Mr. Friedman, as provided for under the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, to ask whether he would agree to accept service of the complaint by email. Doing so is a standard way of avoiding the time and expense of attempting to effectuate personal service on parties to litigation. It avoids sending a process server to an individual's home or office, which can be time-consuming, expensive, and embarrassing for the served individual. Mr. Friedman refused to accept service in this manner, which meant that Ms. Lively was obligated to attempt to serve each defendant personally. Once Ms. Lively did so, again, because Mr. Friedman refused to accept the offer to handle service in a less intrusive manner, defendants then used that opportunity to plant misleading stories in the press, criticizing entirely standard service attempts and timing that defendants could have avoided if they had wanted to, as, quote, beyond despicable, a, quote, desperate act of ego and privilege, and, quote, a new, unforgivable low for Ms. Lively. Citation 54. As someone who's just recently been served yet again at my job when I know the process server knows my home address, yeah, I gotta side with Blake on that one. That's some fucked up shit. 307. Similarly, before filing this amended complaint, Ms. Lively attempted to depose Wallace in Texas to investigate the nature and scope of Wallace's role in implementing and carrying out the campaign against her. Mr. Wallace repeatedly evaded and obstructed Lively's persistent efforts to serve him. Worse, Mr. Wallace's counsel made blatant misrepresentations during Lively's efforts to serve him, first agreeing to accept service and later denying such statements were made and refusing to comply with alternative methods of service. On January 23, 2025, the process server received a text from an associate at Liner Friedman Tatelman plus Cooley LLP stating, quote, the law firm Liner Friedman Tatelman plus Cooley LLP will accept service for him. Do not try to serve him again. Thank you. Yet Mr. Friedman later claimed that, quote, my office never agreed to accept service a process of anything, and therefore denied any arrangement to accept service. After purposely dodging service for more than a week and failing to take responsibility for his actions, on February 4th, 2025, Mr. Wallace filed a plainly retaliatory lawsuit against Ms. Lively in Texas. 308. While refusing to accept service and weaponizing the results of such refusals, counsel for Mr. Wallace additionally insisted upon pursuing in-person service of Ms. Lively, even though her counsel accepted service and filed a waiver of service on February 7th, 2025. Mr. Wallace's counsel continued to threaten to pursue Ms. Lively with personal service, even though she had accepted service already, unless Ms. Lively's counsel agreed to accept his unwarranted demands, including one fraudulent attempt to gain access to Ms. Lively's property by falsely representing that the process server worked for a food delivery service. 309. The insistence on harassing Ms. Lively and her family with attempts to effectuate personal service has continued, notwithstanding that plaintiff's prior attempts at service on the evening of January 18, 2025, resulted in one of Ms. Lively and Mr. Reynolds' employees, who is not a party to this action, being followed to the residence in which she was staying by an unknown vehicle with its headlights turned off, down a dark road late at night, resulting in the filing a police report. 310. Defendants have weaponized the litigation to further their campaign narrative in other ways as well. For example, defendants created a website entitled thelawsuitinfo.com, in which they had posted their filings that include annotated text messages and a winding, self-serving chronology from prior to the film's production through the filing of Ms. Lively's complaint. Despite repeatedly accusing Ms. Lively of cherry-picking evidence, defendants never had any intention of posting, quote, every single text message, every single document, everything on a website for everyone in the public to read. Instead, the website contains only a selection of self-serving materials that advance defendant's narrative. Citation 55. 311. I used to love that band. On information and belief, defendant's counsel has threatened numerous third-party witnesses, journalists, media entities, and others with lawsuits if they speak out against or publish unfavorable information about Mr. Baldoni or any other defendant. At the same time, on information and belief, defendants have continued to push negative and derogatory content about Ms. Lively and her family to content creators, journalists, and others. 312. In sum, defendants' retaliation continues, unapologetic and unabated, using the very same playbook defendants assembled and have relied on since at least May 2024. G. Mr. Baldoni retaliated because HR complaints regarding his behavior threatened his feminist brand. 313. On information and belief. Mr. Baldoni was desperate to suppress any suggestion that he engaged in inappropriate conduct, much less sexually harassing conduct, because it would entirely undermine his carefully curated public image as a feminist ally. 314. Bye. In 2017, Mr. Baldoni presented a TED Talk entitled, quote, Why I'm Done Trying to Be Man Enough. Mr. Baldoni challenged men to, quote, be man enough to stand up to other men when you hear locker room talk, when you hear stories of sexual harassment. Citation 56. Mr. Baldoni asked listeners, quote, will you actually stand up and do something so that one day we don't have to live in a world where a woman has to risk everything and come forward to say the words, me too? Citation 57. Again, I say, let's strive to live in a world where women don't even have to come forward at all and say me too. 315. Hey, holla, Utica. During the TED Talk, Mr. Baldoni displayed numerous screenshots of media coverage of himself from various sources as examples of his decision to use his, quote, social platform as a kind of this Trojan horse, wherein he could create a daily practice of authenticity and vulnerability. Mr. Baldoni then claimed, quote, the response has been incredible. It's been affirming. It's been heartwarming. I get tons of love and press and positive messages daily. And because Stone Cold said so, 316. Around the same time of that TED Talk in 2017, Mr. Baldoni announced the launch of a male talk show through his media company, Wayfarer Entertainment, called Man Enough. Through that show, Mr. Baldoni sought to have, quote, public conversations on camera that he had never seen men have. Citation 59. 317. In one episode of his show, Man Enough, Mr. Baldoni hosted a roundtable with, quote, really strong men, including Mr. Heath and others, in reaction to the hashtag MeToo movement, to, quote, collectively learn from each other, from experts, and hear firsthand from women, and try to figure out how we can be better allies in our responses and in our actions. Citation 60. In the episode, Mr. Baldoni questions the group, quote, who at this table has seen something and didn't say anything? I mean, objectification, harassment, and then not said anything. Citation 61. 318. In 2021, the Man Enough franchise added a podcast also produced by Wayfarer Studios, Citation 62. The Man Enough podcast has featured episodes entitled Strength in Unity, Men Supporting Women in Leadership, quote, from misogyny's victim to male privilege, and, quote, modern dating, consent, boundaries, and respect. Citation 63. 319. Mr. Baldoni stated in his 2017 TED Talk, men, quote, are the problem. They created the, quote, glass ceiling, Citation 64. And if they want, quote, to be part of the solution, then words are no longer enough, Citation 65. By Mr. Baldoni's account, he became a, quote, feminist fighting for gender equality so quickly that he hadn't even realized that's what he was doing or trying to do. Citation 66. 320. In Mr. Baldoni's own words, his, quote, activism, quote, starts in the mirror with an audience of one, Citation 67. Mr. Baldoni has stated that he, quote, that he feels a deep responsibility to, quote, tear down the walls of, quote, power and privilege, Citation 68, and, quote, believes the world needs men to show up, not in big ways, but in hundreds and thousands of little ways, to, quote, create a better, more equitable, just world. Citation 69. 321. Over the past approximately 7 years, and as relevant to this complaint, Mr. Baldoni has made the following statements. A, quote, Let's just shut up and finally listen to the women in our lives. Citation 70. B, quote, and then the other thing men are going to have to start doing now is recognizing when they made women uncomfortable and didn't realize it. I think that's when the other side of the, quote, Me Too movement is, quote, I'm sorry. Citation 71. C, quote, growing up, how many times did I hear bros before hoes? How demeaning, how sexist. We've built this system, the opposite of accountability, and now it's time to figure out how, as men, we can break that system. And it starts with showing what a real man is. A real man is someone that says, hey man, we're still friends, but that's not cool. Citation 72. D, quote, imagine being sexually assaulted, finally coming forward about this traumatic thing that has happened to you, and having people acting like you were to blame. Citation 73. E, quote, it's important for us men to realize how crucial a role bystanders can play in stopping and preventing assault and harassment, how we must be a part of the movement and call for respect and equality for women, act upon that call to action, and continue to perpetuate positive behaviors among ourselves and our communities. Citation 74. F, quote, are you confident enough to listen to the women in your life? To hear their ideas and their solutions? To hold their anguish and actually believe them, even if what they're saying is against you? And will you be man enough to stand up to other men when you hear locker room talk? When you hear stories of sexual harassment? When you hear your boys talking about grabbing ass or getting her drunk? Will you actually stand up and do something so that one day we don't have to live in a world where a woman has to risk everything and come forward to say the words, me too? Citation 75. G, quote, all of us have a situation or a pattern that we need to end the cycle of. Citation 76. H, quote, first of all, I want men to stop asking the question, why do women stay? I want men to take accountability. I want men to hold other men accountable. Citation 77. I, quote, there's never an excuse, no matter how much trauma a man has, there is never an excuse to lay hands and hurt a woman physically or emotionally. And we have to also understand that the majority of domestic violence isn't physical. The scars are invisible. These are things that, it's emotional. It's gaslighting. It's all of the various things that so many people experience. Citation 78. J, quote, I think we judge enough women and victims, but the real question is, why do we keep allowing men to harm? Citation 79. 322. Mr. Baldoni has previously emphasized that, quote, I want men to stop asking the question, why do women stay? I want men to take accountability. I want men to hold other men accountable. Citation 80. He has warned about the dangers of gaslighting and victim blaming, and yet his own lawyer, Brian Friedman, responded to Ms. Lively's complaint in this matter with the following, quote, and Blake Lively, if she was sexually harassed to such a degree in this film and in this situation, she wouldn't have returned to the film. Citation 81. Oh, that's some fucked up shit right there. 323. In sum, Mr. Baldoni's years of investment into his public image as an ally and fierce advocate for women motivated him to employ extraordinary, cynical, and unlawful efforts to, quote, bury and, quote, destroy Miss Lively. Contrary to his carefully cultivated public image as a feminist, Mr. Baldoni, enabled by his billionaire friend and co-founder, Mr. Sarowitz, has spent the last several months and millions of dollars to ruin Miss Lively and her family because she spoke up about wayfarers' harassing and disturbing conduct. H. Miss Lively, her family, her businesses, and certain third parties with knowledge about the retaliation and underlying sexual harassment have suffered and have been substantially harmed by the Wayfarer party's ongoing conduct. 324. While there was considerable online coverage of the film and Miss Lively leading up to the film's nationwide release in U.S. theaters on August 9th, 2024, that coverage was mostly neutral. Some online discussions referenced an apparent, quote, feud between cast members, but they included a smaller percentage of negative and positive mentions. 325. Soon, however, Miss Lively and her team became aware of an increase in negative media articles and social media coverage about her. 326. The significant spike in the volume of negative sentiment toward Miss Lively included notable spikes on approximately August 8th and 14th, 2024, and continued to trend mostly negative for the remainder of 2024. On Information and Belief, an increased volume of sentiment toward Miss Lively continues to trend vastly negative due to defendants' active and continuing campaign against Miss Lively. That is a very revealing and telling screenshot right there. Fucking love data. Indeed, as noted above, TAG itself noted a shift due to their efforts as early as August 10th, 2024. 327, as of that date, the sentiment toward Miss Lively turned toxic, with a sudden increase in negative comments, including hypersexual content and calls for Miss Lively to, quote, go fuck herself. Citation 82. For example, the following vile posts appeared on X in mid-August 2024, tagging Miss Lively. Screenshot of a tweet which states, "Too nasty, entitled, rude cunts. Who gives a fuck about your stupid movie? Who did you suck off for your part? We know how it works, lol. Fuck you both." Oh, and that's going out to Blake Lively and Parker Posey. What the Next screenshot of a tweet shows, at Blake Lively, "Now we all know what a huge cunt she is. Jesus, what a disgraceful bitch. And she has kids? Oh my God, her kids are going to grow up to be little cunts too." No, people like that should not procreate it. 328. Nearly decade-old interviews of Miss Lively were surfaced, commenting on her tone, posture, diction, and language. Citation 84. 329. Miss Lively was criticized for how she was marketing the film, without the context, of course, that she was implementing the agreed-upon marketing plan, was repeatedly called a, quote, bully, a, quote, mean girl, and, quote, controlling, and was criticized for allegedly marginalizing Mr. Baldoni, among many other things. Citation 85. Citation 85. I want to go down to citation 85 here. All right, what is this? "Bitch you are, I cannot believe someone fucked you, made a kid with you, married you, and now has to be stuck with your bitch ass. Oh my God, LMAO, I would run." 330. On Information and Belief, the Wayfarer team seeded social media content with content creators on online chat sites like Reddit and into publications with small audiences and lax editorial standards. The team would then, quote, amplify that content by sharing them with publications like Page Six, The Daily Mail, Newsweek, New York Post, TMZ, and BuzzFeed. These publications had larger audiences and greater reach, which significantly increased the negative sentiment toward Miss Lively. Content from low-influence sites was often linked or referenced in articles on these high-influence platforms. 331. The, quote, social manipulation campaign engineered by Mr. Baldoni and Wayfarer helped create and sustain a negative news cycle and social media algorithm around Miss Lively. 332. The online narrative continues to trend more negatively when compared with other weeks and prior months to the social manipulation campaign, as reflected in the sentiment chart dating from the publicity event on June 13, 2024, through the date the CRD complaint was filed. On Information and Belief, the online narrative toward Miss Lively continues to trend vastly negative due to defendants' active and continuing campaign against Miss Lively. Isn't data just beautiful? That right there tells a story. Like, you get a feel for the events that happened, or even how they happened. That's just from one little screenshot of some data over like a year. Not even, just a few months, 6 months. God, I love it. 333. As referenced above by August 14, 2024, Miss Lively and certain of her friends and colleagues had observed what was happening online and Miss Lively received many incoming text messages inquiring about her well-being. 334. The devastation to Miss Lively's reputation continued through the end of 2024 and into 2025, with negativity spiking in early August 2024 and December 2024, including and notably on X and Reddit. 335. Online vitriol toward Miss Lively has continued unabated. For example, on January 31st, 2025, Miss Lively's personal Instagram, on which she has nearly 45 million follows, was inundated with pornographic content tagging her account profile handle. In an article titled, Blake Lively, Instagram flooded with porn amid Baldoni war, TMZ reported that, quote, Blake Lively has been targeted with a massive troll campaign amid her legal war with Justin Baldoni. Her Instagram profile is flooded with porn. Citation 86. Meta responded publicly by stating, quote, this kind of online harassment is wrong and we condemn it. We are removing the content that violates our policies and will continue to monitor for additional violating posts. Citation 87, to which I have to say to Meta, if you're concerned about the activity on Instagram, well, there's a pretty big Instagram account that kind of led the charge there against Blake. Without a crystal ball, you might want to look into the people that she harasses on your platforms every fucking day. My opinion. 336. On February 4th, 2025, Amazon Prime Video announced on social media via collaboration with the film's director, Miss Lively, and others, the upcoming release of their new movie. The announcement immediately faced a steady stream of comments repeating the false and harmful statements invented and perpetuated in the smear campaign financed by Mr. Sarowitz and executed by defendants. These actions were designed to damage the success of Miss Lively's new film, which affects not only Miss Lively, but the other cast and crew, as well as the distributors of the film. Yeah, that's some fucked up shit. Some comments include screenshot of posts and comments that state, why is Blake Lively's name placed higher than Anna Kendrick's? Is it also her edit? Yes, there's TikToks on this. Because she probably bullied them to do it. Anna hates her too. Screenshot of a post that says, instead of taking over others' people project, why don't you create your own project if you want to be project director, producer, wardrobe team, scriptwriter with your own money? This is the most logical cue that I'm asking you. Probably because she doesn't have talent. Why would you want to take over someone's movie? The outfits for it ends with us. We're so out of touch. No thanks, we don't want to watch bullies like Blake. 337. Social media posts in February 2025 reflect the same. For example, screenshot of a tweet that says, fuck Blake Lively and Van City Reynolds. They are nothing but Hollywood losers who thought they could bully and hijack someone's movie. My theory is she wanted to fuck him, but he rejected her and she didn't like that. And Rye Guy found out and now they got to save face because their life ain't perfect. Screenshot of a tweet shows, at Blake Lively, you and your husband are terrible people. It was nauseating to read how you used your power to hijack someone else's work. And not only that, but also to push the harassment narrative, not just to discredit Baldoni, but as a strategy to strip him of his rights books. What the fuck? Next one shows, every woman with a son should fucking hate the sight of at Blake Lively because this could be my fucking son she is doing this to. Blake, you're a fucking cunt with a bad lisp. Fix yourself, twat. Who do you think you are, accusing men of wanting you when in reality he wanted no parts of you? You're damaged, and yes, you are fucking fat and need a 5150 hold for trying to destroy white men's lives. You're an evil, vile piece of shit. And I hope your kids read and know exactly who you are when they grow up. And your micro dick husband. Respectfully, the American moms with sons. Yo, I'm a mom with 2 sons, and you can go fuck yourself with that comment. At Blake Lively, liar, narcissistic, bully, extortioner. Next one shows, Blake Lively thinks she is so smart. She just exposed herself as cunning and manipulative. She won't be getting any jobs after this is all said and done. No one wants to work with such a bitch. 338. This vitriol and violence is unlike anything Miss Lively has experienced in her 20-year career. At no point until the initiation of defendant's campaign had Miss Lively or her family experienced anything remotely like the above. The sentiments expressed above are the terrifying results of the money, time, and human resources defendants have poured into creating an environment of hatred against Miss Lively and her family. Oh my God. Dude, has no one been on the internet in the past 5 years? This is the new normal. Like, the majority of content creators are working with PR companies to run these kinds of campaigns against whoever is funding the check. Like, this ain't new. Holy shit. I can't believe that so many people have not heard any of our fucking shit over the past 5 years of us pointing this shit out. Like, come on. Who have we been talking to this whole time? 339. Shut up, phone. 339. This campaign has been devastating to Miss Lively, including by causing substantial harm to Miss Lively, her family, as well as her businesses and all the people who work at each of them. Unlike Wayfair and Mr. Baldoni, Miss Lively has been precluded from not only experiencing the success of the film, but also from having the ability to engage further with her businesses, fans, and social media followers without immediately triggering an onslaught of hateful and violent comments. Instead, Miss Lively and her family have been forced to contend with not only an incessant and wide-reaching negative campaign, but also violent threats against Miss Lively and many who associate with her. You know, I don't think Blake Lively or Ryan's ever going to hear this podcast, don't get me wrong, but I'm looking at this, I'm reading this, and it's like it wants to give the impression like it wants to win in a court of law. But you see it come through here and there. It's the person penning this is longing to win in the court of public opinion. And as most people know by now, you can't really have it both ways. You win it one or the other. Because it's a different game. It's a different set of rules for each. 340. When it became clear that this media blitz was the result of an intentionally seeded, cultivated, and financed campaign against her, Miss Lively began to experience mental, physical, professional, and financial harms that continue to the present. 341. The effects on Miss Lively's professional life were immediate and substantial. Given the ongoing nature of the campaign and the associated negative public sentiment, Miss Lively did not believe she could proceed with public appearances or events without being forced to openly discuss what happened on set. For example, Miss Lively canceled a critical Target corporate event for her hair care company and felt compelled to decline an invitation to host of the 50th anniversary season of Saturday Night Live in September 2024. She has since turned down other acting and directing opportunities as a result of feeling harassed and fearful of further attacks on herself, her family, and her colleagues. She has also canceled multiple appearances on behalf of her businesses since December of 2024 because of the constant online vitriol directed at her brands. Yo, here's the thing, and I'm not a professional, don't listen to me, but that's the wrong way to handle this. Really the only way to handle this is to not handle it, to act as though there's nothing to handle. The problem isn't you. You don't have the problem. It's other people who have the problem. They need to work out their problem. You get to go out and live your life and do your shit however you want. And if anyone wants to give you shit for that, don't play along. Just ignore it or ask them questions. Seriously. Ask them to explain how or why they feel the way they feel, what they're talking about. Ask for proof, evidence, examples of the things they say. Talk them through the irrationality that's going on in their head so that they realize that's what's going on. Call them on it, but don't challenge them. Inquire. She has since turned down other... Oh, I read that. 342. The retaliation campaign against Ms. Lively has severely damaged her companies. The long-planned launch of her hair care line, Blake Brown, a date which was set more than a year prior to the date selected, not by Ms. Lively, for the release of the film, was caught up in the crossfires of the negative environment against Ms. Lively. Initially, before the, quote, social manipulation campaign started, Ms. Lively was informed that Blake Brown was Target's largest hair care launch on record. Based on internal sales projections, the sudden and unexpected negative media campaign launched against Ms. Lively depressed retail sales of Blake Brown products by 56 to 78%. The only thing that should be dropping it by that much that suddenly is that people's hair is falling out or some shit. That's crazy. This dramatic drop was completely at odds with the high satisfaction scores that Blake Brown products received in the significant consumer testing performed before launch or its initial success after launch, and appears to have been caused overwhelmingly, if not entirely, by the retaliatory campaign initiated by defendants. 343. Around the same time, the social media accounts for Ms. Lively's brands, including Betty Buzz and Betty Booze, were flooded by hateful comments, which began to echo through other social and traditional media outlets. When Ms. Lively limited comments on her personal Instagram account to limit the toxic harassment she was receiving, those users... Why am I getting pinwheel? Those users simply migrated to the social media accounts and websites of Blake Brown, Betty Buzz, and Betty Booze, citation 97. Many of the negative comments on these businesses' social media accounts and websites had nothing to do with the products or brands, but instead referenced the film, Mr. Baldoni, and or Miss Lively as a, quote, bully or, quote, mean girl. On information and belief, the AstroTurfing campaign was responsible for the wave of comments. 344. For example, posts on Betty Booze's social media include the following messages. A. Cancel Blake. B. Boycott this crap. Citation 98 and citation 99. C. At Betty Booze, stunned by the greed and utter lack of human decency. Yes. Citation 100. D. Hashtag Team Justin. Citation 101. E. Hashtag Justice for Justin. Citation 102. F. Disgusting. Disgusting. You're taking away from women who are actually victims. Shame on you. Citation 103. G. A bully, uptight, backstabbing person that loves to see people suffering so she can feel good. Disgusting. Citation 104. H. Come on, bro. Every day they release evidence it's really getting bad for you. Maybe it's not too late to take everything back and apologize. Think about women who are actually victims of sexual assault. Well, when did she claim to be a victim of sexual... Where did sexual assault come from? Oh my God. Citation 105. 345. Posts on Blake Brown Beauty's social media include the following messages. A. Bitchy hair everywhere. Citation 106. B. Congrats. No one is buying. Citation 107. C. Boycotting. Citation 108. D. We don't support liars. Citation 109. E. Trash. Just like Blake. Citation 110. 346. After defendants launched their campaign, none of Miss Lively's businesses could operate as they ordinarily had before. Instead, the Baldoni Wayfarer AstroTurfing campaign forced each of Miss Lively's businesses to go, quote, dark on social media in August. Miss Lively did the same for nearly 2 months, and during this time was unable to fulfill her obligations as the brand's founder, causing issues with many business partners and customers. 347. The emotional impact on Miss Lively has been extreme, not only affecting her, but her family, including her husband and 4 children. There are days when she has struggled to get out of bed, and she frequently chooses not to venture outside in public. I believe that. While she has fought to maintain her personal life and business interests, behind closed doors she has suffered from grief, fear, trauma, and extreme anxiety. She also has been experiencing repeated and painful physical symptoms as a result of this experience. Mr. Reynolds, too, has been affected mentally, physically, and professionally by his wife's and his children's pain. Worst of all, however, has been the impact on their young children, who have been traumatized and emotionally uprooted in ways that have substantially impacted their well-being. They have kids that are school age, right? I mean, are they homeschooled? Because if they attend to school, I don't care how much they pay for that school, you know that those kids are hearing shit in that school. 348. The threats and harassment are not limited to Miss Lively. Any individual with even tangential connection with the underlying events faces attack and the inevitable emotional consequence of feeling targeted and shamed. As referenced above, other cast members have received threats, online harassment, and floods of comments to their social media accounts. 349. In the days after January 31st, 2025, when the Wayfarer plaintiffs filed their amended complaint, including a 100-plus page exhibit replete with full text threads, including with third parties, one of the individuals whose texts are excerpted received a written communication stating that if the witness did not give a public statement departing from that witness support of Miss Lively, the witness's family would face physical harm and sexual violence. 350. These are but a few examples of the substantial harm caused by this malicious campaign, which pervaded and continues to pervade all aspects of Miss Lively's life. This terrorizing climate is the result of the retaliatory campaign launched by defendants, and the continued harassment and targeting of innocent bystanders is not an accident or a coincidence. 351. Miss Lively never sought out conflict with Wayfarer, Ms. Baldoni, Mr. Baldoni, or Mr. Heath, but instead consistently attempted to speak up for a safe and respectful workplace privately in the hopes of protecting herself as well as the cast and crew without jeopardizing a film that she believed could make a difference in people's lives. In response, Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, and those working for them sought to destroy Miss Lively and anyone else who might dare to speak the truth. Miss Lively's discovery of the full extent of the retaliatory campaign launched by the Wayfarer parties and their associates left her with no choice. 352. Through the CRD complaint and this action, Ms. Lively seeks to set the record straight, to hold the defendants accountable, and to shine a light on this new form of retaliation so that it will not be used against any others who seek to stand up and speak out against sexual harassment or retaliation. Yeah, you're not going to do that. I mean, maybe, I don't even know. Like, what are the implications on free speech if you even try to do that? That's what I want to know. And yeah, there's defamation and everything, but this just seems like a big gray area. I mean, yeah, people shouldn't have to deal with this harassment, but I don't think the problem is that people are trying to make themselves appear in a better light by putting down those around them. I think it's more or less the people who are buying this shit. Like, Josh Johnson, is that his name? Yeah, he's a comedian. Recently, I heard him say something like, art can save your life, but entertainment will never be your savior, or entertainment is not your savior. And people are looking to these people in the entertainment, whether it's YouTubers or whatever, and they're applying these, like, these high expectations on them, because they want to see them commit an action against someone else. They want them to be the savior. But ain't no one entitled to that. So that's it. Soapbox again, sorry. First cause of action: sexual harassment in violation of Title 7, 42 U.S.C. 2000E-2A1. Against It Ends With Us Movie LLC and Wayfarer. 353. Miss Lively hereby repeats, reiterates, realleges, and incorporates by reference each and every allegation of the complaint as it fully set forth fully herein. And I read this sentence like that because you're going to hear me say it a whole lot of times. At all times, herein mentioned, Miss Lively was an employee under Title 7, 42 U.S.C. 2000 EF, and It Ends With Us Movie LLC and Wayfarer were employers and or joint employers under 42 U.S.C. 2000 EB. 355. At all times herein mentioned, Title VII was in full force and effect and was fully binding upon defendants. It ends with Us Movie LLC and Wayfarer as employers or joint employers, and applicable to Miss Lively as member of a group protected by Title VII prohibition against discrimination and harassment. 356. Miss Lively's sex and gender constitute a protected class under Title VII. 357. In engaging in the conduct described in this complaint, defendants, it ends with Us Movie LLC and Wayfarer, through defendants Baldoni and Heath, discriminated against Miss Lively in violation of the Title VII by subjecting Miss Lively to harassment and creating a hostile work environment on the basis of her sex gender. See paragraph 73 through 107. 358. The behavior of defendants Baldoni and Heath, as described in this complaint, was severe or pervasive, such that it created a work environment that a reasonable person would perceive, and that Miss Lively did perceive, to be hostile, intimidating, offensive, oppressive, and or abusive. 359. Defendants, it ends with Us Movie LLC and Wayfarer, through defendants Baldoni and Heath, perpetuated this environment by failing to create a workplace in which individuals felt comfortable raising concerns regarding harassing and other inappropriate behavior on set, including in Wayfarer's failure to provide Miss Lively with an employee handbook, sexual harassment policy, information or any training on sexual harassment, discrimination, or respectful workplace expectations, as well as information about the process for filing HR complaints, and comments by defendants Baldoni and Heath undermining HR concerns. See paragraph 108 through 137. 360. The conduct by defendants Baldoni and Heath, including but not limited to the conduct described in paragraph 73 to 107 above, is in direct violation of Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 as amended, for which defendants, it ends with Us Movie LLC and Wayfarer, are liable. 361. These actions severely impacted Miss Lively's physical, psychological, and emotional well-being by creating an intimidating, hostile, and offensive working environment, as it would have for any reasonable person, and so altered the terms and conditions of Miss Lively's employment such that it was more difficult for Miss Lively to perform her job. 362. Defendants, it ends with Us Movie LLC and Wayfarer, are liable because defendants Baldoni and Heath co-own and operate Wayfarer. The sole member of It Ends With Us Movie LLC personally committed the harassing conduct and were therefore aware of their own conduct and failed to take immediate appropriate corrective action. Further, defendants Wayfarer and It Ends With Us Movie LLC are strictly liable for the actions of defendants Baldoni and Heath, who were acting in their capacities as Miss Lively's supervisors. 363. Harassing and retaliatory conduct against harassed Miss Lively continued in various forms throughout 2024 and, on information and belief, is continuing, including a coordinated campaign to cast Miss Lively in a false light, to discredit her in the event that she publicly disclosed her concerns about harassment and other unlawful conduct, and to irreparably damage Miss Lively's career and future earning capabilities. See paragraphs 192 to 313. 364. As a direct, foreseeable, and proximate result of this unlawful, discriminatory conduct by defendants, It Ends With Us Movie LLC and Wayfarer, Miss Lively has suffered and continues to suffer substantial damages, including but not limited to severe emotional distress and pain, humiliation, embarrassment, belittlement, frustration, and mental anguish, and is entitled to an award of punitive damages in an amount to be determined at trial. 365. The conduct described herein by defendants, It Ends With Us Movie LLC and Wayfarer, through defendants Baldoni and Heath, was a motivating factor in caused Miss Lively's harm. 366. Defendants, It Ends With Us Movie LLC and Wayfarer, intentionally violated Miss Lively's rights under Title VII with malice or reckless indifference, and as a result, are liable for punitive damages. Second cause of action, retaliation in violation of Title VII, 42 U.S.C. 2000E3. Against It Ends With Us Movie LLC and Wayfarer. Miss Lively hereby repeats, reiterates, realleges, and incorporates by reference each and every allegation of the complaint as if fully set forth fully herein. 368. At all times herein mentioned, Miss Lively was an employee under Title VII, 42 U.S.C. 2000EF, and It Ends With Us Movie LLC and Wayfarer were employers and or joint employers under 42 U.S.C. 2000EB. 369. At all times herein mentioned, Title VII was in full force and effect and was fully binding upon defendants. It ends with Us Movie LLC and Wayfarer as employers or joint employers and applicable to Miss Lively as member of a group protected by Title VII prohibition against retaliation. 370. Specifically, pursuant to 42 U.S.C. 2000 E3A, it is an unlawful employment practice for an employer to discriminate against an employee because she has opposed any practices forbidden under Title VII or because she has filed a complaint against conduct prohibited under Title VII, as Miss Lively did when she complained to Wayfarer, Mr. Baldoni, and Mr. Heath about harassing and other unlawful conduct based on sex, which occurred throughout the film's production. 371. Miss Lively engaged in protected activity by complaining to Wayfarer, Mr. Baldoni, and Mr. Heath about harassing treatment based on sex and other unlawful conduct on multiple occasions during the filming and production of the film, which Miss Lively reasonably believed to be unlawful. See paragraphs 108 to 137. 372. After Miss Lively engaged in such protected activity, defendants subjected Miss Lively to adverse employment action, including but not limited to by launching a coordinated campaign to cast Miss Lively in a false light during the publicity and promotion of the film and thereafter. See paragraphs 182 to 313. Miss Lively's protected activity was the motivating reason for and, quote, but for cause of defendant's conduct. This harassing and retaliatory conduct continued in various forms throughout 2024 and, on information and belief, is continuing in order to discredit her in the event that she publicly disclosed her concerns about harassment and other unlawful conduct and to irreparably damage Ms. Lively's career and future earning capabilities. 373. As a direct, foreseeable, and proximate result of the unlawful retaliatory actions undertaken by defendants, it ends with Us Movie LLC and Wayfarer. Through the actions of defendants Baldoni, Heath, and Sarowitz and their associates, Ms. Lively has suffered and continues to suffer substantial damages, including but not limited to severe emotional distress and pain, humiliation, embarrassment, belittlement, frustration, and mental anguish, and is entitled to an award of punitive damages in an amount to be determined at trial. 374. Defendants, it ends with Us Movie LLC and Wayfarer, intentionally violated Ms. Lively's rights under Title VII with malice or reckless indifference and as a result are liable for punitive damages. Third cause of action, sexual harassment and violation of FEHA Cal Gov Code 12940. Against, it ends with Us Movie LLC, Wayfarer, Baldoni, and Heath. 375. Ms. Lively repeats, reiterates, realleges, and incorporates by reference each and every allegation of the complaint as it fully set forth fully herein. 376. At all times herein mentioned, Ms. Lively was employed by and or providing services pursuant to a contract with defendants. It ends with Us Movie LLC and its managing member, Wayfarer. 377. At all times herein mentioned, California's Fair Employment and Housing Act, FEHA, Cal Government Code 12940, was in full force and effect and fully binding upon defendants. It ends with Us Movie LLC, Wayfarer, Baldoni, and Heath as employers, joint employers, or supervisors. Ms. Lively was a member of a group protected by FEHA's prohibition against harassment based on sex, gender. 378. Defendants, it ends with Us Movie LLC and Wayfarer, Baldoni, and Heath, have discriminated against Ms. Lively on the basis of her sex, gender, through the actions of defendants Baldoni and Heath in violation of FEHA by subjecting Ms. Lively to harassment and creating a hostile work environment on the basis of her sex, gender. See paragraph 73 to 107. 379. Such harassing conduct, as described in this complaint, was severe or pervasive, such that it created a work environment that a reasonable person would perceive, and that Ms. Lively did perceive, to be hostile, intimidating, offensive, oppressive, and or abusive. Defendants' conduct so altered the working conditions of Ms. Lively such that it was more difficult for Ms. Lively to perform her job, as it would have been for any reasonable person. 380. Defendants, it ends with Us Movie LLC and Wayfarer, are liable because defendants Baldoni and Heath co-own and operate Wayfarer, the sole member of It Ends With Us Movie LLC, personally committed the harassing conduct, and were therefore Wayfarer and It Ends With Us Movie LLC knew and should have known of the conduct and failed to make immediate and appropriate corrective action. Further, Wayfarer and It Ends With Us Movie LLC are strictly liable for the actions of defendants Baldoni and Heath, who were acting in their capacities as Ms. Lively's supervisors. See paragraphs 108 to 137. 381. Defendants' unlawful conduct was a substantial factor in causing Ms. Lively to suffer and continue to suffer substantial losses in earnings, equity, and other employments, benefits, and has incurred other economic losses. See paragraphs 328 to 354. 382. Defendants' unlawful conduct was also a substantial factor in causing Miss Lively to suffer emotional distress, shame, and embarrassment, all to Miss Lively's damage in an amount to be proven at time of trial. See paragraphs 328 to 354. I'm going to go ahead and skip these because they all say the same thing under each cause of whatever. They all say the same thing pretty much. You suffered damages, they're liable because of this reason and that reason. They should have known, they were reckless disregard, whatever. So, all right, I'm going to read this paragraph. This is interesting. This is under the 10th cause of action, intentional infliction of emotional distress. 435. Defendants Wayfarer, It Ends With Us Movie LLC, Baldoni Heath, Sarowitz Nathan, Tag, Abel, Wallace, and Street Relations, intentionally engaged in extreme and outrageous conduct toward Miss Lively, which conduct was so extreme as to exceed all bounds of that usually tolerated in a civilized community. Defendants' conduct included soliciting, developing, implementing, and promoting a covert, multi-tiered press and digital plan that defendants themselves described as, quote, social manipulation, regarding Miss Lively to destroy her reputation and career in retaliation for exercising her legally protected right to speak up about their misconduct on the set of the film, and to deter or prevent Miss Lively from publicly disclosing defendants' harassing and discriminatory conduct. What is the argument there then? Is it what they did that's the wrong, that's the legality in question, or is it the reason for doing so, or is it the motive? Like, I don't understand this argument. I mean, I get what she's mad, don't get me wrong, but I'm wondering, I don't know what the laws are, so I guess that's what I'm wondering. 464, under the 14th cause of action, defamation per se. The defamatory meanings of their false and implied statements of fact are apparent from the face of the statements themselves, which include the following statements. Quote, it is shameful that Ms. Lively and her representatives would make such serious and categorically false accusations against Mr. Baldoni, Wayfarer Studios, and its representatives, as yet another desperate attempt to fix her negative reputation, which was garnered from her own remarks and actions during the campaign for the film, interviews, and press activities that were observed publicly in real time and unedited, which allowed for the internet to generate their own views and opinions. These claims are completely false, outrageous, and intentionally salacious, with an intent to publicly hurt and rehash a narrative in the media. Quote, after my clients filed a comprehensive lawsuit packed with almost 200 pages of undeniable facts and documentary evidence, which crushed their false allegations of a smear campaign by providing doctored communications to the New York Times, Blake and her legal team have just one heinous pivot left, and that is to double down on the revoltingly false sexual allegations against Mr. Baldoni. Quote, the mere fact that Ms. Lively feels that she can publicly destroy Mr. Baldoni's reputation in an attempt to devastate his future career and then deny him or his team their own ability to defend themselves against her is preposterous. Mr. Baldoni never once publicly attempted to call Miss Lively out for her own many wrongdoings during filming. He kindly addressed all her concerns during filming in the correct manner, despite the fact that he wholly disagreed. He himself was committed to do things differently and to keep the peace, as she specifically admitted to in her own lawsuit. We will not only continue to defend our clients against Blake's power, privilege, and all-out lies, but we will now fight even harder for the voiceless in the DV community, who are unfairly suffering while she continues to push her own self-serving and selfish vendetta in the media. Okay, so I've been following this case by and large for the most part since the beginning of January at least. I have a question, and please answer in the comments if anyone knows the answer. At least since then, or even since fall time of 2024, has Blake Lively given any interviews, spoken on these matters, spoken on Justin at all publicly? And has Justin spoken on Blake publicly or given any interviews or spoken on these things in any setting publicly? And has his circle and her circle, which side is doing the talking here? Because it's usually the side that's doing the talking that's trying to push a narrative that is not representative of the situation, in my opinion. I think that Justin comes off as a kind of a, quote, nice guy. any man who touts himself or boasts himself for being such a feminist and fights for women's rights and so proud of himself for that, but yet can turn around and exploit the shit out of any and all trauma that women may experience, well, I'm gonna side-eye the fuck out of you. There's something ain't right with him. My opinion. Civil conspiracy, is that a thing? Civil conspiracy is a thing? What is this? What is this shit? Confidential scenario planning. It ends with us. Objective. Oh. Protect the reputation of Justin Baldoni, Jamie Heath, and Wayfarer Studios in the lead up, during, and following the premiere of It Ends With Us. Underscore the achievement and efforts of the Wayfarer team in bringing this movie to life, and emphasize Justin and the studio's commitment to their team in making the broader industry a more inclusive space. Overview. Though there are several potential scenarios at play which we should be prepared for should Blake Lively and her team make her grievances public via a blatant story or subtle leak, given she was made to compromise with the premiere, we feel she will move forward with doing so. Our recommendation is to get ahead of this narrative, owning any misconceptions and addressing them head on. Ultimately, we need to be ready to take the air out of any story that does arise, as well as commentary and or background narrative Blake Lively and her team put together without being the louder antagonizer. The tag team will continue to monitor media, flag, and respond to any media proactively researching out, reporting on the issue, and will send regular reports on existing chatter that may arise. Additionally, our team's digital experts will continue to monitor and flag any online content related to the crisis and or mitigate if false narratives begin in the digital space. Crisis mitigation and rapid response. Our team will establish a, quote, rapid response communication system which keeps Justin, Jamie, and Wayfarer Studios abreast of new coverage and narrative trends in real time, both in traditional media and social media. Alongside Jen Abel and her team, we will manage media inquiries regarding the news on background as sources familiar, working with legal as appropriate. We will provide information to ensure our narrative is properly represented in any and all coverage. Okay, so this is what pops in my head right here. This is what Justin Baldoni's side, their team and everything we're talking about behind the scenes, we're prepping for or whatever. And meanwhile, we saw the screenshots regarding Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, for that matter, talking to their PR person and saying, no comments, don't acknowledge it, don't comment about it, don't talk about it, nothing, just leave it alone. That just kind of stands out to me. I mean, why is Justin Baldoni's side going to all of these crazy extremes and shit for what? I mean, really, what if Blake Lively came out with her accusations? Were they really that bad? I don't think they're that bad. But the fact that he's acting like they are that bad and they're going to be that bad and that much of an exposure for him, why is that? And furthermore, why is he trying to already come up with excuses to explain it away and blaming it on his neurodivergence or whatever? And furthermore, why is he also trying to explain away his lack or his inability to have taken no for an answer back when he was a teenager? Why is he blaming that on pornography? Did he ever watch Lethal Weapon and suddenly decide, oh, that means I can go around and shoot people? We'll catalog third-party advocates willing to provide a potential quote or engage with reporters on Justin and Jamie's behalf to mitigate negative narratives from a source outside of Wayfarer. That right there. I wonder, I know she did a post about how, oh no, Blake, this was all me. I'm just fucking crazy. No one's got to tell me these ideas. I come up with them on my own. Katie Joy there. But I think Katie Joy, in my opinion, has been doing that right there in a myriad of current event situations for a few years now, going all the way back to the Sophie Long situation in 2020. I think that's why she got involved with the Dre McRae, why she got involved with the whole 7M thing. And I think it's why she's pushing this shit right now. And also the whole Twitch thing. I don't think it's why she got involved, though, with the Duggars. I think that was all her own desire. Gross. Our team will collate a list of people who have publicly discussed their positive working experience with Justin. Examples, okay. Key messaging points. Justin's stellar reputation among colleagues and industry peers, numerous quotes and interviews sharing positive experiences. Justin has been a longtime activist and advocate of and for women in Hollywood, speaking out about challenges his colleagues faced before the Me Too movement even began. To which I'm going to say again, if he were a real advocate, he wouldn't be caring about his reputation. It wouldn't be about him. If he thought that there was a chance he caused Blake to feel the way she says she felt, that's what would be on his mind. He would say, I had no idea. I'm sorry. I don't want to do this. Please tell me how I can avoid this in the future. I don't want to make this mistake again. That was not my intention, yada, yada. But instead, he's out here kind of patting himself on the back for doing a TED Talk years ago to mansplain feminism. So, yeah. The Man Enough podcast has been a source of inspiration since it began, fostering a safe, encouraging environment for a range of perspectives to meet and discuss gender roles and how their rigidity affects everyone. COVID-19 thing, production members lost jobs due to Blake Lively's takeover and insisted upon involvement, including loss of budget due to rescheduling shoot days when Blake Lively refused to show up. Well, wasn't Justin like the director and producer? Then perhaps he should have done whatever it took to get his actors to feel comfortable enough to come into work. And then everyone would have gotten paid. Blake's less than favorable reputation in the industry spans decades and has been reported. There were issues on Gossip Girl, The Town, A Simple Favor, and more. I don't doubt that because she is kind of a snarky and sarcastic person. And I don't think that comes off very well in Hollywood, just judging by the ass kissing I've read in these emails. It is unbelievable. And the passive aggressiveness, oh my God, like they make, oh bless your heart, look like child's play. There's a clear likely motive due to the film's value and fan base in which Blake Lively is attempting to bully her way. Yo, this Colleen Hoover, this ain't fucking Bridget Jones. What did she talk? What are they? Why is it though in all of these like suggestions here and talking points, not one of them is actually addressing the claims that Blake Lively is making? Address the claims. If Justin's team really wants to win or at least come out ahead in this, just throwing dirt on her isn't going to do it. You have to take the complaints head on and humble yourself if you were wrong. Humility is like the most attractive human trait and is one we rarely see. Scenario 3, Ryan comes forward in defense of his wife. Should Ryan come forward in defense of his wife, we would advise against any direct engagement statement, etc. Inquiring reporters and those in need of updating would be given a pre-approved line of background attributed to source, implying his lack of connection or involvement with the making of the film and another imbalance of power attempt to... Man, I gotta ask. Is it easy for any man, Justin in this case, but really any man, to go about giving public interviews about how there's an imbalance of power, basically admitting and stating that this other man is way more powerful than you? Like, that's gotta suck. Okay, so I'm about at the end. I didn't go through and read all of the causes of action or everything in the evidence section. It's stuff that's been stated over and over again all throughout the things I did read. So I'm already like 6 hours into this thing, way too far. So I'm ending this reading portion of this now, and I just want to summarize things a little bit real quick, just give my opinion. So if you don't care to hear my opinion, go ahead and leave the video now. But from the beginning, I kind of came into this with just really an impartial view, and right off the bat, I kind of sided with Justin's side, and and I just really thought that Blake was a lot more at fault than where I'm at now, and I still am at the point where I feel like this is the most entitled lawsuit, the most entitled shit I think I've seen on YouTube in a real long while. And it is quite entertaining, and I'm here for it, don't get me wrong. But I don't think that this is all one-sided by any means. And I do think that Blake Lively absolutely has her faults here in her contributions to this situation, no doubt. And I do think that maybe she does kind of exaggerate things, absolutely, and she kind of blows things up, takes shit out of context, and kind of manipulates the history of events to better suit her narrative at the time. And that's what I think. That being said, I don't think any of that's criminal. I don't think any of that is even cause for much of a civil action. And the same thing with Justin. I don't think that he's done anything criminal or even much cause for a civil action. Like, I don't think that this lawsuit really has much legs to stand on either side. I think it's enough or a good reason to be upset with something or to complain about something or to seek to better a situation. Sure, everyone has a right to bitch here. But it's the legality of matters that I kind of don't agree with. It seems like a lot of involvement and a lot of work with very little merit behind it. It seems like too much. But anyway, that's my point of view. But that being said, I don't want to say anything bad about the dude because I don't know him, and I'm not basing this on anything other than just my own personal perception and intuition and things. I guess I don't know, my own gut feeling. But I don't really care for the guy much, Justin. I wouldn't trust him much if I knew him personally. I don't think. I don't subscribe to his persona, this image that he's trying to put out to the world, where he is some advocate for women or whatever. I don't think he's there for the right reasons, and I think that he's going through an awful lot of work for very little reward and out of very, very little threats of harm to his reputation. Like, I mean, even if Blake Lively is 100% correct in all the things she claims about him, about how he said inappropriate things, or he acted inappropriately through intimate scenes or whatever, even if all of that were 100% true, I don't think he did anything that bad. I don't think he did anything definitely not to be canceled over, definitely not to be sued over or whatever. If anything, I would put some blame maybe on Wayfarer for not taking extra precautions to ensure everyone's comfortability and feeling of security on set. That's about the extent of my thinking that there are or could be any legal ramifications. But as far as Justin Baldoni, I don't think he did anything that wrong. But he's going through an awful lot of shit to keep this from harming his reputation. And I gotta wonder why. That just doesn't seem like a sane thing, a rational thing to do to me, in my opinion. And I wonder why that is. I don't know. That's my opinion. When I heard him blame when he sat there saying about how, did I always take no for an answer? No. Did I, maybe push the boundaries or whatever, with girls in my teenage years and early 20s or whatever? Yeah. And then when he went and blamed it on the pornography he was watching, and then when he made that email to his buddy saying, I want to do this doctor show or whatever, so we can open up my neurodivergence and explain that this is why these accusations, these things are being claimed against me. It's just because it's all in my head. It's my own attributes or something. That's not taking accountability. That's not being an advocate. But anyway, that's my opinion. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.